Oh boy. Mary Conley, June 3rd, Wednesday, 2020. Debra Kent homicide, Ted Bundy, Serta, 1974. I'm reading the article. He had gotten away from Carol Durant and headed to Beaumont, Bountiful Viewmont High School or something. Anyway, and it goes on and on. He's in the hallway standing, talking to Raylene Shepard. He's in the hallway 2 different times, maybe 3, talking to her. He's outside. He ran into one girl, and then he's standing along the back of the auditorium, standing in the hallway as he enters. The only time he sat down that we know of was at the very tail end of the play, at the time that his hair and shirt were disheveled. So it's my contention that a man wears a belt. He either had a hatchet or a ball-peen hammer or the crowbar, depending on the 12 or 18-inch crowbar. When he pulled it out, he pulled his shirt tail out with the weapon, whether it was a hammer, the backside of a hatchet, or he had a gun with him earlier, but a ball-peen hammer, hatchet, or crowbar. When he pulled it out, he was disheveled. The girl had enough instance to scream very loudly once or twice. Several people in the apartment, 1 or 2 people heard the scream, and later some guy saw his Volkswagen. He went back in and sat down. The entire episode, he did not sit down because he had whatever he was going to use wouldn't allow him to sit down. If it's a 16 gauge hammer, the backside of the hatchet that he carried, or whether it was the actual crowbar stuck on his pants, it didn't allow him to sit. The only time he sit was after he had attacked the Debra Kent girl. So the reason the shirt was out is when he pulled it from that side. What side was the shirt out? They said his shirt tail was out. Okay, this just is something I'm speculating on. I'm still waiting for the forensic document. She may send it back as a package with my diary. The unfortunate thing is it may not be the right page. We could find Deborah Hogue, unknown married name, Vicky Hogue, unknown married name, or Jeannie, the one that got pregnant. If we could find them and encourage them to speak, that would be wonderful. I'm going to see a hypnosis. I'm going to see a hypnotist eventually, and then also the polygraph. I still haven't seen the 1967 Saber, Jeb Stewart. They say, oh, his classmates want to know. That one isn't there. If you pull up Jeb Stewart, it comes up somewhere in Wells Church, Virginia, or some ass place. It's not our Jeb Stewart. I need to see this 1967, and then I'd have to see Dr. Green, our school board superintendent, and then I'd have to beg her to let me know, just let me know if one of them hailed from Washington or attended Puget Sound or University of Washington or any of the other colleges that were in his vicinity, that he could have had a slightly older female, or maybe he had the idea that his father was at that school. He shows up at Jeb Stewart a decade apart, 2 times, 1967 when we were children, and I've been trying, and that was a year. I've been trying a year to find out. I found out quite a few things. Stanford wouldn't tell me about the room and board on his scholarship, and that is because apparently it was a National Defense Education Fund, so it would have been from the federal government. So we'd have to contact people who received that scholarship for science, math, or certain foreign languages, Chinese being one. His mother said he made the sing-song. He sounds, well, that could have been phony, or he may have learned a few phrases. He didn't do very well at it. I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm sure I can learn a few phrases. My brother even learned a few phrases of Vietnam, I'm sure. Vietnamese, all right, Punjab or something, I don't know. All right, we've been doing the floors in here, and it's quite exciting. I've washed the windows. I scrubbed the carpets out on the driveway and squeezed them out and hosed them down. They're on the back fence. Put different carpets out temporarily. Washed and waxed the floors and cleaned some of the baseboard. I did the porch outside, the screen porch, and now I've got the kitchen to do. It is about 4:30. I'm a little tired. It was also, I did a 3-mile run this morning. My diet's going well. We're on day 24. Tomorrow's a grocery day. You have to pre-plan everything. I did go to the dentist. So now I have to wait out and find out Well, did I get COVID? My exam was okay, and they're not going to do the filling just yet. That's wise. I think that's wise. Just do the cleaning, hope for the best, and then worry about that. Because of my age being 65, I applied for Social Security. They have received my application. We shall see what happens with that. I have a birth certificate from Pensacola. I have my, it's so many weird things. I worked at a central crisis thing too after I left JSO. I worked for JSO. I knew Charlie Hill. Some of the names of the state attorneys and stuff, like the medical examiner, Likovic. They said, you want to see a medical autopsy? I said, well, I wouldn't mind. They had a criminal, federal, and Department of Law, all of the people. A guy that was a union president of the police association, he said, oh, he cut her breast nearly off or something. I don't know. He had seen him in Gainesville, and he wrote a book about something, not about Bundy per se. He was a union person, David Shores or something. I don't remember. But a lot of them probably, I think he was even in Jacksonville temporarily because the main airport to places is out of Jacksonville. Sea Turtle, I've stayed at the Sea Turtle one time just to be at the beach. I had some leave time. I said, I'm going to go to the beach and go to Sea Turtle. And I've always wanted to go to Colorado, but not to ski, to run, they have running camps. Oh, that's another thing. I was on the track team in high school. I ran the 440. I was on last I was on the track team. I lettered in track and field. I did baton twirling. I did choir at Cedar Hills. Debbie and I did choir at Cedar Hills. I think, and then the Monkees were coming July 8th, but that would have been me and Kathleen going to see the Monkees. So the course would have been, we usually got out of school the end of May, the beginning of June, and I was still not all that familiar with my clarinet. That's why I had it open. She showed us how to assemble it, how to put the reed in, maybe a few chords. But being it was a summer class, and Debbie and I had done things to get into school earlier, too. When we went to Forest, we had decided we could help paint a room. See, we're always, and when they built Jeb Stewart, Stonewall Jackson, Jeb Stewart, Nathan Forrest. But anyway, Stonewall Jackson was a new elementary school, and I had been in all these different half shifts and Presbyterian churches and everything. And I said, and Lakeshore Presbyterian, yeah. And so I was glad to be going to a regular. I went to Cedar Hills, and then I was supposed to go to Stonewall Jackson for 6th grade. And when it was not constructed all the way yet, me and Kathleen wandered around to see how the building was. So we went in ahead of time. We went in ahead of time to the band practice, and we went in ahead of time to paint some rooms. And Debbie was in choir practice because we had the second ideology that we were going to be a singing group. And Kevin Nelson was the front man for Leonard Skinner, so it wasn't that far-fetched, I guess it was far-fetched. But anyway, I'm still waiting on the diary, and then I'm willing to do hypnosis. But it's just amazing to me. There's something about that school. Either he thought his father was there, or he knew a Navy family that was there, but they were younger than him. If he was 20 to 21, then I thought maybe he just is there. Somebody said no, he'd just be there trolling. And years later, he remembered where he was trolling before. But, Bayview, and there's a school called Bayview and Lake Shore, which is an elementary on one side and a middle school on the other at that time, that he bypassed. That would have given him more stuff than the Parmenter. And then the Parmenter people, they ran across my path several times. They have older brothers, even older than Danny. I think my brother worked with Danny on the Confederate Point Apartments. But none of that is relevant. I even knew less of Sergeant Parmenter. My radio calls, I was NCIC. I even worked at a central crisis thing on Park Street with Bonnie Jacobs. It's so weird. Like a devil. My father said the devil was after me. I said, no. And when I was born in Pensacola, my mom went into labor. And they said, no, Miss Conley, you're not ready yet. So they went back to somewhere called Milton. And she was walking on one of the little sandy beach areas, I guess, on a sandy trail. And they saw a black snake or something. She says, I got to go back. And they said, no, you're not ready yet. And she was in the bathroom, and one of the nurses said, Miss Conley, you're about to give birth. And they held her legs together. And I ended up being a breech birth. Is that a negative thing? I don't know. I'm fine. All right, guys. Have a good one. But there are some odd stuff. And I just wish, I just wish, well, I don't think my father had anything to do with it. All right. But there was somebody, I think either a father, some family had moved, or maybe some girl that, remember, the other girl was breaking up with him. And he rented a red Volkswagen somewhere. Her car was red. Her car was a red Mustang. He rented a red Volkswagen. And then he had a Volkswagen earlier. I think he'd had a Volkswagen and then some kind of other old car. So the rental car was, and I think we were saved through the grace of God, as he had to be somewhere else. He didn't know that much about the vicinity where he was. There were two of us, and he had already said his complete name. Because I said, what is your name? See, I thought he was a Lieutenant JG. I knew he had an out-of-state tag on his car. It seemed like it was black and white, but I can't say. Maybe it was Colorado. Maybe it was gray. I don't remember. I knew it was out of state. So I just figured he was a Navy person. All right, y'all have a good time. That was June of 67. I'm 65. I will be turning 66. I'd like to set up, here's my idea from way back when email and internet was still a novice. And it's sort of like Mr. Keppel in a way, but it's different. That you would set up an internet like Crime Stoppers. And the person would put their name and address if they were willing. They could put anonymous if they wanted. And they would say things, and this is hypothetical. I mean, because I was talking to some guy the other day, and I said, no, hypothetical. But you would set up the website and say, my name is Jane Doe. And my great aunt Ethel had a hairstyling and a barber shop. My father, my great uncle, and my great aunt have a dual hair shop and barber shop in Clydesdale, Montana. And she swore up and down till the day she died that she thought she had given a young Ted Bundy, a haircut. And this would have been, I guess, 68 to 69 or something. And then at the same time, on the next page, it says, Mr. Scott Teasdale, owner of Brand New Bugs, the VW shop in Clydesdale, Montana, said that he believed he had changed a tire for who he thought was. And see what I'm saying? They would put their little stories, their great aunt, their grandparents, their little kids that went to elementary school, rumors of the teachers, strange things he did in and let them put any little dab of information. It would be just like a credit card. Now you say, oh, a lot of it would be BS. Now remember, they got to fill in a little form just like Crime Stoppers, and then they would just highlight their story. Say, well, I'm from Corinth, Mississippi, and as odd as it is, I think we rented a room to him. He was going to stay 2 days, or whatever. It can be as completely off the wall as you want. And as you fill it in, I think in your mind, I don't think there would be that many responses because a lot of these people are dead and dying. And then, because they're elderly, they're getting old, or they'd have to be hearsay from the grandmother and the aunt. But you might be able to somehow create a trail covering the period from 65 to 69. Because Ann Rule herself said he did a lot of traveling. All right. Thank you, guys.